So the FNB BER Consumer Confidence Index has dropped to -25 in the second quarter of 2022. This is the lowest scoring that the country has received in over 3 decades. In fact, experts are warning that with the looming petrol price increase and power outages, things are only going to get worse for consumers. Let's make sense of all of this for you now. Bring in Chief Economist at Stanlib. That's Kevin Lings, who's with us via our video link this morning. And Kevin, it's great to have you on the program, and that sigh is not intentional. I think it's more reflective of just the sentiment in the country, given the fact that, you might be hit by load shedding as I am at any point now, which speaks to the sentiment, right, around the Consumer Confidence Index. But it also comes at a time when all COVID-19 restrictions were lifted and there was actually improved business sentiment. Are you surprised that it's this low?
Morning. I think I am surprised. I guess the reason is that the first quarter GDP in South Africa was actually a bit better than expected. And if you look at the labor market data, the employment data, it was also, for the first quarter, it was a bit better than expected. So the extent of the decline in confidence, perhaps a little bit of a shock. And as you said, I mean, this is incredibly low. And any time that we've been at this type of level of confidence, the country's been in recession or going into recession. So that's the implication of this. This level of confidence is associated with an economic recession. And in fact, it's associated with a very severe recession. And as you say, there are other factors which probably make the situation worse. Interest rates definitely are going to go up again. The governor of the central bank has been saying, well, I'm probably going to increase interest rates another 0.5%, and there'll be further increases beyond that. The petrol price is going up again, substantial increase expected next month, and then the month after that because of the ending of the fuel levy subsidy. So those factors, I think, are going to be problematic. We've got food prices that I think are ratcheting up still. We've got electricity outages. We've got water problems in various parts of the country. You start to put all of that together, and then you understand, yes, consumers are under enormous pressure, but the situation is not going to get immediately better. And so the takeaway from this for us is we are facing a recession. The South African economy's underlying is incredibly weak, and sentiment is incredibly low.
Yeah, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, so perhaps it's worth taking a step back. Help us better place the importance of this matrix. Why does it matter? Why should we focus on what consumer confidence sentiment is at any stage?
Sure. So this confidence measure, it's done once a quarter, and it's done by means of a survey where they're speaking to a couple of thousand people. And obviously, it's not a massive survey. They just can't afford to do that extensive a survey every quarter, but it seems it gives you a reasonable estimate of what people are feeling. And obviously the survey's done, it's across provinces, income groups, age groups, race groups. It's fairly broad, and I think it's proved to be very reliable. Now, the reason we focus on this is because it's a forward-looking indicator. In other words, it's an important indicator about future activity, because obviously, if confidence is incredibly low, then consumers start to reflect that in their behavior. And importantly, they make decisions around, say, the purchase of a house. When you lost confidence, you generally don't purchase a house. You don't purchase a car. You tend to hold back on large item purchases. You tend to be more conservative. You perhaps increase savings. You're more careful with credit. You don't tend to go into a significant amount of debt. And obviously, if you're not taking debt, then that tends to limit economic activity.
Right.
You tend to not travel as much. There are a whole range of implications, all of which suggest a weakness in economic activity.
Right. Interestingly enough, with this confidence, with this outcome, it's found that it's mostly wealthier South Africans and those in the middle class who have lower levels of confidence. Does that necessarily mean that the blow is going to be more severe on the economy?
It is, if you break down the confidence, yes, there is a weaker confidence amongst higher income earners, and I think that reflects two things. Probably the fact that interest rates have gone up and are going up, and higher income earners tend to own houses and cars and are more affected by interest rates. And the second is that markets, financial markets, the equity market, they've been weak, and obviously that tends to affect high income earners in terms of their savings, their pensions, etc. Having said that, though, when you drill down into the numbers, the weakness in confidence is actually fairly broad-based. It's not as if there's one group that is especially happy right now. That's not the case at all. And because higher income earners are lacking confidence, yeah, it does tend to worsen economic conditions, because obviously you need those individuals to keep spending and to keep fairly buoyant in terms of economic outlook.
Yeah, you speak about no one being happy. I think we can actually extrapolate that. No one in the world is happy at the moment. If you look at the situation in Sri Lanka, for obvious reasons, in Ukraine, in Russia, the US, the UK, Greece was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Apparently, people in the news showing people how you can siphon petrol from other people's cars because of just how expensive that fuel is at the moment. Does that context matter?
It does matter. It does give us a sense of, firstly, that we're not alone. This is not particular or peculiar to South Africa. Yes, we have our own set of circumstances, but around the world, everybody's facing higher inflation, higher interest rates, higher fuel costs. And when we look at confidence, I was looking at the broad European confidence. Those numbers have crashed off dramatically. If I look at the US confidence numbers, those have come off. As you say, a whole range of countries, if you look at their confidence indicators, they're also exceptionally weak. I guess where it hurts South Africa is that we're desperate to get our economy going after years of stagnation, in effect. We're struggling to get our employment back to the level it was before COVID. We desperately need growth to pick up. So for us, it feels a little bit worse because we've been in this difficult situation for a number of years, and we keep hoping that there's good news on the horizon, yet it doesn't manifest. And I think it's that lack of a more positive outlook that has an extra negative effect in South Africa.
Yeah. If we can speak for a moment just about those who are low-income earners in South Africa, part of what's led to low levels of confidence in that socioeconomic group is this non-payment of the 350 Rand COVID-19 relief of distress grant. Part of the hopes at the time that this grant was introduced is that it would kick off some kind of multiplier effect so that as a result, kicks off the economy in this country or helps us get to where we want to. Has that happened? Do we have any kind of data suggesting that it does go that far?
No, it doesn't seem to have that bigger multiplier effect. It undoubtedly helps. So the way to look at that is imagine how dire it would be if that 350 Rand wasn't there. We would have a way worse situation. And obviously the fact that that payment was delayed, we think fed into the weakness in the confidence. And it will help that, payments have started with back pay, and you'll see that in some of the economic numbers. But the multiplier effect is not as substantial, and I think it's because the spend tends to be concentrated in only one or two areas, and it doesn't have that ability to transmit to a whole range of other sectors, or at least so far it hasn't had that benefit. And so there isn't a broad-based uplift going on. It is substantial when you put the numbers together in total, the amount of money being spent, but for each household, it's fairly small. And obviously in some towns, some kind of more urban, more rural towns, it has perhaps a bigger impact because there isn't as much alternative activity going on.
Yeah.
But it hasn't translated into a significant uplift at this stage.
That all makes sense. Kevin Lings, thanks very much indeed for helping us make sense of these developments. Such interesting times we're living in.